we have the election, the winner, whoever that may be of the election, is going to go out and claim they have a mandate, that they have the authority of the American people to do whatever it is that they've said they're going to do. This mandate theory of election is pretty simple to understand. The winner of the election supports it, and the loser claims it's not true. It doesn't really matter who it is. Politicians talk in these terms. Political scientists, not so much. The mandate theory, by the way, is usually detached from reality. It's one thing to look at FDR's crushing victory in 1932, and for FDR to come out and say the people clearly want what I'm offering, and calling it a mandate. But keep in mind, when George Bush got less than half the vote, got fewer votes than Al Gore, and then had to go to the Supreme Court to have them decide on who won the state of Florida and therefore who won the election, Bush walked out and said he had a mandate, just like he had won the 1932 election by a landslide. So, again, the winners claim they have them, the losers try to argue they don't. That's just how it works. People generally vote for the party they agree with. People tend to lean, either identify as one or the other, Democrat or Republican, or lean one way or the other. A lot of people say they're independents, in reality vote the same way every election. Although it should be noted that the parties have lost a lot of affiliation. Back in the day, almost everybody identified with one party or the other. These days, fewer than a third of the population either identifies as a Democrat or a Republican, and more than a third of the country identifies as being independent. The idea that they're available during any given election. This is an interesting chart you can pause and look at, as we've talked a lot about demographics and how they correlate with voting, but here you can actually compare two different elections, one in 1960 and one in 2008, and see how that actually looks. How do we think about our candidates? Well, candidates want a good visual image. They want to be thought of as having integrity, reliability, and competence. Candidates are basically products to be packaged and sold, and these are the characteristics that they want to present. Personality does play a role in vote choice, especially if a candidate is perceived to be incompetent or dishonest. Now, I've often said that America will vote for a man who they believe is incompetent and honest. Jimmy Carter comes to mind. And America might vote for a man they believe to be competent but dishonest. Bill Clinton was perceived this way by and large. But you can't be both, is the way I kind of think about this. Basing your vote choice on issue preference and where the candidates stand on each issue, we call this policy voting. Voting on policy. Policy voting only can occur if you know where the candidates stand on the issues and you understand the issues. But as you probably know, most people don't know that. For one thing, candidates tend to be ambiguous on the issues. They may constantly change their position or refuse to clarify their position. For example, John McCain, who has a long record of being strongly pro-life and against abortions, there was a poll taken shortly before the election where over 20% of women thought he was pro-choice. And so they may have thought they were going out and practicing policy voting, but they didn't understand the policy, or they didn't understand where the candidates stood on the policy. And the candidates do this on purpose. They don't want to take hard stances because they don't want to turn off any voters, and they don't want to be seen negatively by any voters. The way the media covers elections is often criticized, and people accuse the media of covering it like a horse race, meaning that when you turn on the coverage, it's, today the poll said this, or they've got a new commercial that says that, as opposed to actually talking about what these people plan to do if and when they get elected. Now, another thing that happens is candidates have to go to the extreme during their primaries and then try to move back to the center during the general election. So when you're watching a primary, the candidate is going to be much further to the right or left, depending on the Democrat or Republican, than they will in the general election. So you can go and expect all those things to change when you're listening in the primaries. One of Mitt Romney's advisors in the 2012 election here famously said that after the primary, they're going to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and turn him into a centrist. So he's going to run as a conservative in the primary and a centrist in the general election.